Hello and welcome to the Isle of Man, home to the legendary TT course. This 37 3/4 mile long road has been used as a racetrack since 1911, making it the oldest operational motorcycle circuit in the world.
The TT has seen some things in its time, but today it plays host to a groundbreaking sporting event. 12 times World Motorcycle Trials champion Dougie Lampkin is going to attempt to wheelie the entire course to prove if it is actually even possible. I'm Rob Warner.
I'm Ed Lee.
And I'm Caroline de Mores, and while these two are going to be in the studio, I'm going to be riding alongside Dougie, watching his every move.
This challenge was first attempted by Dave Taylor, who allegedly wheelied around the entire course continuously in the late 1970s. But this time, it's all going to be shown on live TV, so there will be absolutely no doubt as to whether or not Dougie succeeds.
Well, without further ado, the main man's behind me, but let's hear more about him now.
For the first time ever from the Isle of Man, motorcycle legend Dougie Lampkin will attempt to complete a full lap of the Isle of Man TT course on one wheel. It's one man with one bike and only one chance. Back in the 70s, stunt riding legend Dave Taylor dreamt up the idea, but whether he completed a full lap remains a mystery. Inspired by Dave's vision, trials superstar Dougie is out to prove once and for all if a single, continuous wheelie around the course is even possible.
Is this a good idea? I've got doubts. I just have to make it happen.
Undeniably the most successful trials champion of all time. He's won more international championships than Rob has excuses to stay home and not ride. But is he confident?
This could be one of the greatest experiences of my life. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
We're just behind the grandstand here, and I've just had to break these two up having an argument about who did better on Junior Kickstart.
What wasn't much of an argument, was it? Eh? What do you think? Who do you think?
But it tells me you're incredibly relaxed for someone who's about to attempt what we think is a world first on live television.
Yeah, it might look quite relaxed, but it's been yeah, it's been tricky. Obviously, post moment from yesterday with the winds and everything and the bad weather. It's definitely drier, but it's certainly still windy, and the challenge is big enough as it is. So yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be really tricky, but I'm ready.
It's not exactly calm today, is it? I mean, there is a fair bit of wind about. Is that going to be the biggest thing you have to deal with out there? Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. During all my training and everything, the wind's been an absolute nightmare. Yeah, no other words for it really. So but it sort of adds to the challenge. It certainly wasn't easy, like I said in the beginning. So. Yeah, it's massive, but we're close. We're ready.
A couple of the people we've spoken to have said that your biggest strength, though, is your ability to concentrate for huge lengths of time.
Yeah, for sure, and this is, throughout all my career, that's been one of my strong points, really, at the World Championship, when it really got to the sort of nitty-gritty. I could sort of pull it out of the bag still, really, but yeah, this is no different. It's a long, long time out there. It's been a long day getting ready for it as well, and yeah, it must be used to it, but it doesn't seem to get any easier, that is for sure.
Let's hope you can pull it out of the bag today. You might, it's not going to be easy with this wind, is it? No.
It was never going to be easy, but this is just a little added bonus for you lot.
Good. Yeah.
OK, Caroline is with a couple of fans now. Dougie, we'll leave you to get ready.
Thank you very much.
Well, the excitement here is growing. Now, Dougie Lampkin is a trials bike legend. He's won the Scottish 6 Days Trial 10 times, the World Indoor and Outdoor Championship 12 times, and he's a popular guy. Why have you come out here today?
To see him wheelie all the way around the TT course.
What do you think is going to be his biggest challenge?
Definitely the weather. It's pretty changeable down here. Ramsey could be a completely different scenario.
And finally, do you think he can do it?
Of course, he wouldn't have came to the Isle of Man if he couldn't do it.
Well, we're supporting Dougie. I know so many of you at home are supporting him too. He's been prepping for months and he's even had his bike modified. Now, the event, due to weather conditions, was changed and postponed till today. And yesterday, Rob and Ed caught up with Jake Miller to talk us through the decision.
It's a pleasure to have Dougie's manager, Jake, in the studio with us now. Jake, you're a man who knows exactly how hard this challenge is, and it's been illustrated today with the weather.
Yeah, just one more challenge in what's already been a difficult task over the last 9 months since we pushed the button on the project. There's been lots of difficulties in terms of getting the rolling road closure, the permissions, etc. And we're always aware that weather would play a major part in this, and guess what? It's come along and given us one more challenge.
How was the build-up to this event, though? You say 9 months. You know, you've had to get the bike modified so this is possible. And how's Dougie been throughout this? Because the pressure on him to deliver is massive.
Rob, every part of this project's been ultra difficult, you know. Getting the bike, like you say, we had no reference material, we didn't know what to do. The bike was not quite right at the start, and Dougie was definitely bogged down with that. Dougie's had his own difficulties, you know, that he had a big wobble on us earlier in the year. That didn't go quite to plan. We come back on track. We arrive here on the island ready to go, and guess what? The weather now plagues us, so let's hope we can roll out tomorrow properly.
Talk us through the decision-making process today. How did it actually play out?
So we went up the mountain earlier on today to check the wind conditions. We already sort of knew what was going to happen this morning. Dougie came with us, a small team of people up there, and thankfully the weather was so severe it was quite an easy decision in the end. It would have been worse if it had been borderline, but in the end, you know, the wind was just so strong there's no way that he could attempt it today.
Dougie's got an incredible poker face, hasn't he? And at the moment he looks really, really confident. None of this seems to have flustered him at all. You obviously believe he can do it?
Yeah, that's why he's won 12 world titles, 10 Scottish six-day victories. You know, if there was one man to bring to the island to do this job, even with the weather conditions, everything that's against us, there's one man that's going to do that tomorrow. It's Dougie Lampkin.
Okay, well, I hope you're right, Jake.
Me also.
Looking forward to it.
Well, things are hotting up, and this is a challenge on 2 wheels, let alone on one. Dougie is going to have to be on top form, in peak physical condition, and have a little bit of luck on his side as well. This course is a huge challenge. We're talking about uphills, downhills, windy lanes, bumpy and narrow roads. Well, while we get ready here in the back of the truck where we'll be alongside him, I'll leave you with Rob and Ed in the studio.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, we've heard from everyone else. Rob, what do you think? Can he do it?
He, without a doubt, is the man to do it. He's a man who makes, you know, riding a motorbike look easy. Like Jake said, he's the man to bring to this island, but there's a lot out there that can go wrong. So, I don't know. It's a huge, huge ask, this is. It really is.
Excellent commitment there. Well, that was what Rob thinks. You can join in the conversation using the hashtag Dougie's Wheelie, but stick with us for the next 2 hours as we find out if it is possible. We'll have Caroline out on the course, and we've got some guests coming in here to join us in the studio to tell us more about Dougie's training, the finer points of the course, and the modifications that have been made to his bike to allow it to wheelie constantly for over 37 miles.
Not only that, but all of you at home will be able to ride along with Dougie using your phone or tablet. Let's have a look.
This is the Dougie's Wheelie online game. Using your mobile device, you'll control Dougie as you tilt and turn him on your own virtual wheelie. No need to download anything, it's totally free. Just go to dougie.redbull.tv. Log in through Facebook to compete live, with high scores from around the world shown throughout the broadcast. You'll be able to keep tabs on the success of your wheelie on your TV, with the leaderboard going live the moment Dougie hits the road. So don't just sit there, get involved and go to dougie.redbull.tv on your mobile device and be part of Dougie's Wheelie. OK, we're back on air. Put it down now. You can have a go from the comfort of your sofa. We'll be checking in on the leaderboard throughout the broadcast, so get practising. Back to the real world now, though, and Dougie's challenge.
If you've just tuned in, we're here on the Isle of Man to see trials bike legend Dougie Lampkin attempt to complete the whole length of the TT course as one long wheelie. Before he gets going, let's hear a bit more about this one-wheel challenge.
Dougie's wheelie begins at the TT course start-finish line. Laid ahead of him will be over 37 miles of hairpins, mountains, bridges and side winds. A 2-mile acclimatisation zone gives Dougie his only chance to get used to the road and the elements.
Probably going to be the biggest challenge of my career.
If he drops his wheel within this zone, he'll have just one opportunity to restart. But as soon as he's crossed that zone barrier, there are no second chances.
There's definitely a risk to my reputation because everything that I've ever done, I've always wanted to succeed.
With months of gruelling training under his belt, no one knows better than the man himself just what an incredible undertaking this is.
Live TV is the one that just makes me... that just steps it all up another level.
The TT course will be throwing up challenge after challenge, but the one thing he can't prepare for is the unknown.
We're going to be on semi-open roads. Animal could run out, spook me. Something could happen on the bike. I could have a puncture.
And the biggest problem?
Definitely can't go to the loo. Bit tricky. Never thought of that, did you?
Well, all eyes are on the start line of the Isle of Man TT course. Dougie Lampkin is in full focus, concentration mode. This is a huge risk. His reputation is on the line, and I am going to be driving alongside him the entire time, keeping you guys updated. This is the world first, and any minute now, he is going to be getting ready to go, and he'll be setting off by Bray Hill. And any second now, we are off, and he is attempting his wheelie. He started off behind me. Here he is. He is on his wheelie. The crowd are behind him. We are approaching the first hotspot. Right, guys, Rob, Ed, it's back to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, we are up and running. No messing around from Dougie. Very, very quick. Onto the back wheel. He had less than 20 metres run up there to the line, but instantly he's into Bray Hill.
This, although he's got that 2 mile safety zone, let's not forget that this is one of the trickier parts of this lap. You wouldn't believe how steep Bray Hill is. It's downhill, which is worse for the wheelie, and he's up against it here, straight out the box. But he has been warming up, around the car park beforehand for a good, couple of hours probably now. So, yeah, he's in the zone. I don't think we're going to see him smile much on this lap.
Well, let's talk about the intricacies of the wheelie. You said downhill's harder. Gravity is pulling the bike away from him.
Yeah, the bike at the moment is trying to come out from underneath him. Now, when he's going up a hill, he can just lay on the throttle to keep the front wheel in the air. On the downhill, he has to go behind the balance point, use the back brake, and that's the only way that you can keep the front wheel in the air.
Because when you push the back brake, then the front wheel comes down.
Yeah.
But to get that front wheel up again,
you need more throttle. Now, unless you're Dougie Lampkin, and you'll see more of this later in the show, and I had a go at wheeling, you just tend to pick up speed, more and more speed. So you have to go behind the balance point, get on the rear brake, all this with the front wheel in the air. I mean, it's technical, and now he's really into what we call Bray Hill, and look how steep it is. You can almost see it there.
Well, it's not just how steep it is, it's how long it is.
Yeah.
And this is, you're saying he's on the back brake the entire time here, so that brake's heating up.
Well, that's why there's 2 brakes on that bike, because he has the benefit of being able to switch between them. If he warms one up, if he cooks one, then he can switch to the other brake, and hopefully that will alleviate any problems there of overheating. So safely down Bray Hill.
And you can see the rolling roadblock in place here. Dougie has outriders up to half a mile in front of him who are blocking some of the smaller junctions. The police are taking care of traffic lights and pedestrian crossings.
We couldn't, unfortunately, the truck in front that Caroline stood on as well, unfortunately we couldn't get hold of Sandra Bullock to make sure it didn't drop below 20 miles an hour. but she was elsewhere, unfortunately, not available. But yeah, so the pressure's on here. The truck that is filming Dougie now cannot grind to a stop because he ain't gonna have nowhere to go. It's live. Anything can happen out there.
What's lovely, we're seeing instantly the fact that this is a public road. There's traffic grinding to a halt in the opposite lane, watching him. You've got all of the spectators out. You can hear them cheering him on. Legendary status does bring it with it a certain amount of fame. This is our onboard camera, and that is Dougie's best poker face.
Yeah, that expression is unlikely to change, almost no matter what. I think it will change if the front wheel hits the ground, but yeah, that's Dougie in full concentration mode, and he has to concentrate so hard on this. A momentary lapse of concentration, look at the skills of the man, getting right up to the outside there against the grass to make this turn as easy as he can. So, the skills are there.
He's got some fantastic support out on these junctions, picking up speed again as he makes his way out of Douglas, the capital, and towards...
Having a bit of an itch of the chin there, look at that.
He was relaxed, wasn't he?
That was pretty impressive. One-handed wheelie already. Come on, Dougs.
So he's making his way slightly uphill here, but he's got through Bray Hill. We've got 6 big hotspots on the course that we've identified as some of the most technical areas of the course. And we're now, having got Bray Hill out of the way, we're getting towards a much more benign section of the course. He's very protected. He's on the lowest section of the course, nearly down at sea level, and these trees are protecting him from the wind.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot more difficult than this, that is for sure. He's still finding his feet, still within that first 2 mile zone as well, remember. But he's definitely not a man who is going to want to go back to the start and have another go. This is it. This is it for sure.
So we will be coming up on the acclimatisation zone fairly shortly. That is the 2 mile mark. And that is the point where this challenge effectively goes live. Until 2 miles, Dougie can touch the front wheel down and rebate and go back to the start line and try again. But
that's his manager there, Jake Miller, the man closest to Dougie through this whole process. Been with him through all those World Championship titles, and he's going to talk to him as little as he can really to try and distract him, but he will keep Dougie posted of any developments, of any problems ahead on the road. But the road looking nice and quiet at the moment. It's down through the towns. I think we're going to see some exciting moments. There's big roadworks actually in Ramsey that they're dreading.
Yeah, they impromptu roadworks this morning. They said with a normal traffic flow, there's a 6-car wait on either side of the roadworks. So how they're going to get Dougie through that remains to be seen yet, but that's a swinging sword towards the end of the challenge. Right now, though, you've noticed already, if you know, all right, we've just had word Dougie has gone through the acclimatisation zone. Oh. This ride is now live. This is the attempt. If the front wheel goes down, there are no second chances now.
Pressure's on him even more. The pressure's been on him for the last 9 months. He actually said last night was the first night he'd slept well in a long, long time, so he clearly, you know, this is a man though that's won 12 motorcycle trials world championships. He knows how to live under pressure. This is what he does. I think he's still asking himself why he put himself up for this, but he's looking good at the moment. Nice and solid there. That unflinching style of him.
Oh, you saw the bike just dipping a second there as he took his hands off. But we've seen Dougie tackle the first of the TT course hotspots in the form of Bray Hill. But what about the other 35 miles? The track is full of twists, turns, climbs and falls, each with their own unique issues for Dougie. Caroline has a look at the course and all of its potential pitfalls now.
So here we are. I've just crossed the start line. This is where Dougie will be starting his wheelie. Bray Hill now. Oh my God, actually, this is really quite steep. Good luck with that one, Dougie. It's quite an interesting course because we're going through towns to open countryside, back into towns. There's some beautiful scenery. Not that I think Dougie will get to enjoy any. We're heading up the west coast towards the mountain where Dougie's going to face his biggest challenge yet. Bluff Bridge. Let's test it out. That was quite a big bump, especially when you think that Dougie's going to be doing it on one wheel. Feels a bit dangerous. Ooh. Well, this is Ramsey Hairpin, and you can see how tight that bend is. This is the bit where it's going to get really tough. He'll struggle here. So I've started the climb, which feels like forever. I'm still climbing. Not only is it long, not only is it uphill, but you're also going round sharp bends. You turn left, and then you turn right, and then you're uphill. I'm now about to go round the gooseneck. I really don't know how he's going to do it. So I've started the long descent. It's so steep downhill that he is going to be really pushing on his brakes. And there's bends. This is going to be so hard. I'm coming in to the finish line. Good luck, Dougie.
Well, Ramsey corner there. Caroline managed to stall the car on that. It gives you an idea of just how steep it is. And we watched some slow-mo footage of Dougie trying to get used to that the other day. And the bike is leant over so far, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredibly tight. I mean, I could barely get around it in my car as well. So, you know, yeah, it's very, very tight. Much steeper and much harder than it looks.
OK, well, you can see Dougie is in the inset down in the corner of the screen. Where is it? Just down here. We know that he's still up on the back wheel. Caroline, how's he looking?
Well, guys, Dougie is looking really strong and the support from the locals is overwhelming. So many cheers, claps, and people are coming out to see him, but it's not distracting him at all. Actually, I've seen him actually scratch his nose a few times. He's looking confident. The only time where it was a little bit nerve-wracking was going down Bray Hill. That was long and it was a steep hill, and I don't think he was 100% warmed up, but he got through it, and we're well past the 2-mile acclimatization zone, and he is in the zone and looking really strong. We're not too sheltered here, so there's a lot of wind, but Dougie's looking good.
Thank you, Caroline. Rob and I drove the course on Friday, and I think this is Glen Vine, looking at it now. Little hill coming out of this village, but he stays low and skirts around the side of the mountains here.
Don't stop for that red light, Doug, whatever you do, no, it's all right. He could end up with 3 points, but it's a risk worth taking today. But isn't it amazing, you know, to see how many people have come out to see him here and there on the track? They usually don't get to see much of the bikes going by. They're probably doing about 200 mile an hour here during TT week. They can enjoy this a little bit more.
Well, there's a couple of reasons that you hold a challenge like this on the Isle of Man. It's a Crown dependency, which means that while the United Kingdom looks after defence and international relations, they govern all of domestic law, which is why there are no speed limits here, and it's why Dougie's allowed to wheelie, because if you did this in the UK, it would be illegal. You're not allowed to wheelie on a public road.
No, are you allowed to wheelie on an Isle of Man road? I don't know. I think we've got to have some permissions here. I don't know, I'm just saying. But,
well, we've got enough locals coming in throughout the afternoon that we can ask them and find out.
He does look good. I mean, you know, he's a man who's been up 6 o'clock every morning of the week.
Earlier than that, wasn't it?
Some mornings, I believe it was, yeah. He had to fit his training around the dairy farm on the local estate. He's been practising on a private estate. And,
because obviously he couldn't practice in North Yorkshire on a public road.
No, exactly. Even Dougie Lampkin can't get away with that in Yorkshire. That's saying something. But yeah, and he's been on his private estate, and he said that the lap he's got there, he comes up towards the farm and starts screaming for the farmer to come out and open the gate. And he said it's absolutely fine as long as he's not on the udders. If he's squeezing the udders, the farmer don't want to know, and it's, you know, he has to put the front wheel down and open the gate himself. So, bit of rain coming down now. You can see the windscreen wipers going on that van back there. But that won't bother him too much. It's going to be uncomfortable on his eyes here. That's the problem. It's you know, not going quick enough really for goggles to work, or a visor. The water would sit on it rather than getting blown off.
So another little wipe of the nose there. But Dougie looking very, very comfortable at the moment. We've been talking to so many people, and it's really put in perspective just how difficult this challenge is. A lot of people, when you hear the name Dougie Lampkin, his legacy is so strong, so powerful, that you just assume he's all conquering, that he wouldn't take something on that he couldn't do. But a lot of very experienced people have said they think this is going to be his toughest challenge yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, everyone I've spoke to in the motorbike community, as soon as you mention his name and say what he's going for, they've said, oh, yeah, it's easy. My dad used stronger words and that I won't repeat on telly, but he was like, you know, it's going to be easy for him. He'll do it no problem at all, because it's Dougie Lampkin. But, you know, in an interview we'll actually bring in the show later with one of his biggest old rivals, he really shed some light on it. And, you know,
what's interesting about this, though, he's not up against another trials bike rider. He is up against the Isle of Man. And it doesn't matter how much concentration or skill he's got, the island has got plenty more to give him. So let's take a closer look at this island now.
A world-renowned motorsport mecca, the Isle of Man's natural beauty and varied landscape also makes it a popular destination for cycling, running and other outdoor activities. The island measures only 33 miles long by 13 miles wide, but despite its modest size, it has a varied landscape, including stunning peaks, beaches and woodlands. Legend has it that the island's name derives from the Celtic sea god Macnannan MacLear, the son of the sea, and the salty deity was said to protect the land from the Vikings, and at the first sign of invaders, he would shroud the island in a shield of mist. Now, this may make the climate here sound a little dubious, but I'm told that the ever-changing weather patterns only add to its charm. The Manx are superstitious people, so you shouldn't say the rodent spelt R-A-T, because it brings a lifetime of bad luck. And if you want to stay lucky, then make sure you say hello to the fairies on Fairy Bridge. Hello, fairies. And of course, the island's home to the world-famous Isle of Man TT. And this place has seen its fair share of triumphs and disasters over the years. But now it's time for Dougie to take his turn at making history on this legendary track.
Well, he is attempting to make history right now. Interesting though, the RAT, the word that you can't say, they're known as longtails here.
Well, really? Because cats here haven't got any tails.
Exactly, it's crazy.
It's a weird.
And there's Fairy Bridge that you saw there. And Dougie's going to come up on it very quickly. Greeba Hill. There's a church up there, well, a church ruins, St Trinian's, where I think he's called Bullimore, the giant who had a ruinous temper and decided to blow the roof off the church.
Blimey.
Yeah. Dougie will be able to see that from the course. So.
But probably not enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, if you want to join in, you can join our conversation on social media. The hashtag is Dougie's Wheelie. Plus, we've got the video game, dougie.redbull.tv. You can go there. You don't need to download an app. You can just play the game. The leaderboard is there if you share on social media, and we'll be checking in on that the entire time. Joel Vardy, 19.63 miles.
Ed, I did 2 laps just before we started, and it's not on there, so I need to know why my name's... I did 2 laps, OK? There was a lot of hype about this game being harder than the real challenge. I just don't, you know, I've said it. I did 2 laps, so update that, please.
I'm sure that you did. We were very privileged yesterday, though, to have 3 special guests in the studio who hold this feat very close to their hearts. As we said earlier, this challenge was inspired by an attempt made by Dave Taylor back in the 1970s. And here with us are 3 of his children, Dave, Katie and Gary. It's an honour to have you in the studio with us. It's incredible. This is Dave's legacy, effectively, isn't it, this challenge?
Yes, I think so, yeah. Yeah, but it's one of those kind of events that no one else has tried. And Dad was the first one to try it.
Where did the idea come from?
It was a sponsor and invite at the time.
Yeah.
Dad done this weekend in, weekend out at Grand Prix circuits all over Europe and UK in interludes in between races. So he was invited by the Manx government, as Gary mentioned earlier on, to come and wheelie during the TT racing, which was quite an exciting event.
So he did it 3 times, but he put his wheels down a couple of times. Do you think it's possible for Dougie to do it with that in mind? Bearing in mind how much practice your dad had, how much skill, is it possible for someone like Dougie on his first go?
Yeah.
It's mind over matter. He's got to have the power of the mind as well, definitely.
That's an interesting point, because the physicality and the confidence of it is huge.
Yeah, it is massive. And Dougie's at that level, you know, with what Dougie's done with the trials. All these guys at that top level of competition have got that little bit extra to put that mind over matter, you know, and Dougie's got it, you know, for sure. He's going to put as much effort as he in that, stick his neck out a little bit and make
control as well, you know. These guys are controlled. They're display riders, as Dad was. You know.
Do you think that's a difference? If Norris McWhirter had been here to do it for the Guinness Book of World Records, that your dad would have stuck at that?
Yeah, he would have backed off and made a bit more of an effort to get all the way round.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know how much it means to Dougie to have you all here, so thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers. Undoubtedly, motorcycles run in the Taylor's blood. Gary, there on the left-hand side in the black jacket, he raced in the Manx Club races.
Come second. Yeah. So he knows how to go around this place fast.
And he was telling us stories. He said one of the times he tried to film his dad doing it, they took off from the start line. David already set off. He ran back and had to get his bike because they bump-started the bike. It took him until Greeba to catch up with him, and when he did, he was doing over 80 miles an hour, coming into a right-hander with the mudguard scraping on the floor. He said when they went up onto the mountain, his dad came past him and he glanced down at his speedo and he was doing 105 miles an hour. So,
yeah, Dougie's probably a little bit more calculated in his approach to it, I think it's fair to say. But, you know, I mean, yeah, Dave Taylor, he was years ahead of his time. He really was. And he was doing it on a motocross bike, you know, either a YZ 400 two-stroke bone shaker or a Honda CR250 he used with the 2 bikes he used. So they wouldn't have been the easiest, smoothest powered things to do it on, you know, but those speeds he was doing, 80, 90 miles an hour. It would have been something to see.
It's unbelievable. The big bombshell there, though, was the fact that this will be a world first. So Dave Taylor came very, very close, but he never succeeded. He touched down a couple of times. So if Dougie can do it, it will be a world first. Time for a quick break now, but we will be back in just a couple of moments to watch Dougie Lampkin attempt to wheelie the entire Isle of Man TT course. You do not want to miss this.
Bill Hadoff Mine, Poland, known for digging deep and breaking rocks, becomes the next terrain for a brutal, hard enduro battle. Firing full throttle for a fierce 3-lap race, these riders will be pushed to the very limit. Red Bull 111 Megawatt, available on Red Bull TV.
And there is Chris Pfeiffer's homage, the legendary stunt rider giving Dougie a little bit of encouragement there of his own flavour. Now, if we take a look, you might have noticed already while we were watching Dougie, you can see a lot of modifications to the bike. Probably the biggest one that you'll notice is the steel cable running from his chest to the handlebars of the bike. Rob, talk us through this.
So that is there to knock the power off to the front wheel. It's also there as a safety as well. If he comes off the bike and falls away from it, that will kill the power to that front motor. It's a 36-volt front hub on that bike. It's enough to power, you know, a bicycle
Okay,
along.
so there's independent power to the front wheel.
Absolutely, to keep it spinning, because he needs it spinning, otherwise it just becomes a dead weight. So he has to have that gyroscopic effect up front. You can see that he can steer with the bike, he can balance the bike with it a little bit as well. But also that cable, if he leans back on it hard enough, it will kill the power to that. And on the downhills, he needs to do that, because when the wheel's spinning that hard, it actually tends to make the front one to drop on the downhill parts of the course. And it's free wheels forever, that front wheel.
It's got to be primarily for safety, because if Dougie comes off the bike, or if it comes down, it's going to shoot off.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's two-wheel drive, and it's going to pull him into either the filming trucks in front of him or up onto the pavement or into the bush. So
primarily it's there as a big safety.
So he's got those rear pegs on as well. That is, talking to the Taylors yesterday, Dave, Gary and Katie, they were telling us that that's exactly how Dave Taylor did it. Physically, you cannot hold your legs up on the front pegs.
No, and I spoke to Blackie Holden, who designed this bike for Dougie, who's done so much with him on this project. And I said to him, you know, you've got the footrest on the rear axle there. You must have got that from Dave Taylor. And he goes, no, I only found out about that a week ago. So,
really?
Yeah, he really did. They've independently, without knowing anything about Dave Taylor's bikes, created this bike. And why? Because it's simply impossible to do it on a standard trial bike. Impossible.
It was Dave Taylor who pioneered the gyroscopic front wheel.
Yeah.
He knew that he needed that gyro on the front wheel to keep it rolling for stability. And you can see Dougie looking very, very solid at the moment. But as we touched upon earlier, it is going to be, this is the calm before the storm, quite literally, because this is, you can see it perfectly on that shot. This is beautifully protected, really cosy, snug road down low. Once he gets to the mountain, all that changes. Caroline, I think she's ready there for us now on the back of the truck. How's Dougie looking?
Well, guys, we're just coming up to Glen Helen now, and I'm really happy to say that the rain has stopped, because I think it was getting in Dougie's eyes because he kept wiping his face quite a few times. We've gone through some windy and very narrow lanes. Dougie is looking as strong as ever, and the locals
and they're coming up.
Been cheering or clapping for him.
So you can see there, it's very interesting. There are a huge amount of challenges involved in this. It's not just about Dougie. The rolling roadblock itself presents a lot of challenges. You've got the outriders, you've got to film it, and obviously the technology involved in sending that signal out and setting this challenge up, because there is a reason that the Isle of Man TT is not covered live. There are a lot of signal black spots on this island, so just getting those signals out is one of the greatest challenges, and you can see breaking up there from Caroline's broadcast. But the inset, that camera is prioritised here, and we've got a really strong signal on that.
One thing I noticed actually is that they're causing quite a tailback now. Now, major concern for me is if that tailback gets to 37.7 miles long, he's going to catch up what he's caused, and this is done. Like, it's, you know, it's not really outside the realms of reality, is it?
Your jokes aside, one of the real dangers is that anyone caught in that tailback who doesn't realise what's going on, you get someone who thinks the road's clear and starts an overtake, something comes and they start having to pull in to this space between Dougie and the chase vehicles.
Luckily that car getting out of the way on the other side of the road there, nice of them to do that, but yeah, you can see how live the road is. Dougie going a little bit quicker here, he's coming uphill. These are the easier parts for him, the uphills. The straighter the better.
I'm really impressed with how he's negotiated the turn so far. I thought that was going to be one of the most vulnerable spots, but he's just so smooth banking the bike across. So don't forget, you can join in with the game. Dougie.redbull.tv, and obviously if you agree or disagree with anything that Rob is saying, then you can use the hashtag Dougie's Wheelie. We know that Dougie is ultra competitive, and he's been in training for this for months now.
So let's see how that went and just how confident he is at this stage.
How was the idea born? I thought about wheeling, because everybody loves wheeling. When you're a kid in a push bike, all you want to do is wheelie off the curb. So I thought about the Isle of Man, I used to live there. I wonder if you could wheelie the TT course. And I mentioned it in conversation, and 10 minutes later we were wheeling the TT course. All of a sudden, it was like signed and sealed. And then reality sort of sets in of, what have we got ourselves in for? I'm feeling a lot of pressure. What's happening is we've got a production crew of between 75 and 125 people. There's about 40 staff for closing the road. There's police bikes for a rolling road closure. There's an aeroplane for bouncing off the signal, and there's 2 helicopters for filming. And in the middle of all that, there's just one bloke on a bike, and it just happens to be me.
At home in the Yorkshire Dales, Dougie started preparing for the challenge of his lifetime.
The first steps were really get the standard bike out, get out there, get one wheel, get the wheeling in, and just see what we needed. Plan is we're wheeling a trials bike for 37.7 miles, and I've only ever wheelied for probably 100 metres, maybe 200 metres. There's no seat, there's nowhere to put your feet, and when you are sat on it, you can't get your foot to the rear brake. When I first started this, I could just about wheel it to the end of my driveway. To be honest, I thought things would just start dropping into place. I'd just feel more comfortable with doing a little bit more practice. Soon realised that it was going to be much more than a bigger rear brake needed on the bike. Work to do. The way we're trying to do it on a trials bike, there's no books to read, there's no information out there. I have to learn a new sport, really.
Despite months of practice, Dougie was struggling to make any real progress.
I think we were definitely very, very naive at the beginning. Things just weren't happening. I was struggling to get to a mile. I just thought, I just can't do this. I completely underestimated this massively.
The project was in crisis, and Dougie had reached his breaking point.
Were it a meltdown? Yeah, a meltdown. Yeah, a bit more than a wobble. I wanted out. I just wanted to pull the plug. I just wanted to give up, cancel, surrender. defeat. It just had to stop.
It's a very rare piece of footage because Dougie Lampkin just doesn't do weakness.
No, he actually admitted that he fully had a meltdown about this, but that's, you know, like we said, I was in that same trap of everyone. Oh yeah, it's Dougie, he's going to do this. But you know, the more and more we've looked into it and spent time with Dougie, the more and more you've realised what a toll it's been on him mentally. Really has.
The big thing that stood out to me from that film is the line, "I've got to learn a new sport."
Well, that's right. I mean, you know, of course, he's got more skills on a motorbike than almost anyone on the planet, but he wasn't really a showman when he was a world champion trials rider. He was business. He would go out and do, you know, just practice and practice 6, 7, 8 hours a day on rocks and just practicing, not really wheeling. So it probably wasn't his strongest point when he started. But and he said that himself there, that he could only get to a mile, you know, what, 3 or 4 months ago. Then he had his meltdown. Then they've come back with this bike they've developed now to make this possible. And one of the big things I shot with him a couple of weeks ago was that the second rear brake is actually where the front brake would be. So he's had to relearn that the front brake is gone and that is now a rear brake. And the minute he actually rode a normal bike with me that day, and the minute he got off it, he said, right, that's going away. I'm not going near that bike again, because every time I do it confuses me. And he can't have any confusion out there. You know, if he grabs that brake by accident today, it's over. Well, so, you know, there's a lot riding on it, but he's looking comfortable, looking confident, steady.
This is really, really nice. Caroline, we've come, I think, just over Cronky Vody, have we? Which was one of the first really exposed sections of this course.
Guys, we have just passed the 12-mile mark. Dougie is looking really strong. Now, a little bit further back, there was a lot of distractions, a lot of visual distractions, because the oncoming traffic, there was quite a lot of horns being tooted and people cheering support through the window, which obviously created some distractions for Dougie, but he's very focused, he's staying strong, he's looking really good, and luckily the sun was coming out, it's looking dry, but soon enough we will be starting the uphill climb and we'll be on that mountain soon. But at the moment he's looking strong, so I'm feeling really positive in reporting back that Dougie is looking good.
Well, that's brilliant. We can see some of those statistics there. Dougie's heart rate coming right down. He was up to 115 beats per minute there.
Well, he's into it now. I mean, you know what I mean? It takes a while just to settle down. He's certainly very settled now.
Look at that. As he comes downhill, those beats just dropping. So while it's probably more technical, it's actually less physical at this point. But as we said, 163 metres above sea level. He's come off Cronky Vody. And
he's got enough petrol. He's used nearly a third of it already.
12 miles. Yeah, it's actually going to be close, isn't it? And he's got the mountain stage, but then he's coasting down from the mountain stage. That would be the challenge, see if he can actually make it in without any fuel left at the end. Right, don't forget you can join in, send Dougie your best wishes using the hashtag Dougie's Wheelie. But it sounds like training was hard on Dougie. This will be a challenge too far for our hero. We'll find out very shortly. Has he bitten off more than he can chew? Just what are his chances?
We caught up with Rob Mastro Domenico, a top statistician, to give us the lowdown on just how likely Dougie is to achieve his goal.
What Dougie is attempting has never been done live before. We have no previous examples to go from. But what we can do is use statistics and data to estimate his probability of success. The chance of success is no greater than the toss of a coin. The chance of his brakes overheating and boiling is a major concern, and his team rate the chance of this at 40%. The oil being at an unnatural angle gives a 20% chance of engine failure. Add to that a 10% chance that the back tyre could puncture. So when we bring that all together, it leaves us with only a 1 in 5 chance that Dougie and his bike successfully make it round the track. The odds are that Dougie's going to need the loo. Now, though he's an experienced sportsman and should be able to deal with the distraction, we give the chance of failure at 1 in 1,000. But what if he needs to sneeze? Anyone who's ever driven on the motorway will know how distracting a sneeze can be, so we've given this a slightly higher chance of 1 in 500 of causing a failure. That gives the total probability that he fails due to distraction at 1 in 500 million, which is roughly the same as being killed by a shark attack. There are approximately 1 rabbit per person on the island. There's also a population of grouse, pheasant, mountain sheep, and a population of wild wallabies that escaped from the zoo in the 1970s. Due to this, we estimate a catastrophic failure to be 1 in 10,000. 37 miles is a long way and a lot can happen. For example, the chance he gets struck by lightning is 300,000 to 1. The chance of him being hit by a meteorite is 1 in 1.6 million. And the chance of him being hit by plane debris, 1 in 10 million. These unlikely events don't have too big an effect on the probability of success. But stranger things have happened. Wind is a big worry for Dougie. If the wind gets above 10 knots, that's going to cause him real problems. The average for September is 10.7, so the odds are already against him. Based on that, we estimate the chance of failure due to weather to be 10%. However, when can you trust what the weatherman says? So when you factor in mechanical failure, rider distraction, animal incidents, freak occurrences and weather, you get the chance of success at 19.4%. So good luck, Dougie. You're going to need it.
He did look a little bit smug at the end there, didn't he? Yeah. I don't know if you're watching, if you saw the inset there, Dougie actually had to make quite a swerve around some parked cars.
Yeah, he's going through a car parking lot at the moment as well, by the looks of it. Yeah, these are the danger areas, I think.
Look at this!
Squeezing up the side of a bus.
You can hear Jake shouting on there. A lot of people quite impatient. They don't realise what's coming through. And you've got a big tailback there waiting at the traffic lights for this rolling roadblock to get through. And people are getting impatient. They want to pull out there. They're having a little look around the side of that bus, and they're taking up valuable space on Dougie's side of the road.
He's dropped a long way behind the vehicle in front of him at the moment. He'll no doubt get up behind it again, but yeah, they've obviously they've had to leave a bit of a gap in case the lead vehicle can't get through. Sandra Bullock at the wheel, this wouldn't have happened. But
one of the interesting things, Dave Taylor always did his attempts on a closed course.
Yes.
It was closed during TT week. Dougie's out here. I think they had the classic race, didn't they, at the end of August? So a couple of weeks after that, some of the crash pads you can see around, but the course is most definitely open. It's business as usual on the roads of the Isle of Man. Little wave there.
Actually, the TT races go back as far as 1907. And I believe there was a carpet speed limit on the mainland of 20 miles an hour, so the association's come over and said...
Carpet speed limit or a blanket speed limit?
That might be what I was looking for.
Oh, look at that, you can see the back work at brake there. Back brake at work even. Dougie said that he's got 10 centimetres of play either side of the balance point. So the front wheel can move 10 centimetres up or down before it's a complete loss of control. He can't retrieve the front wheel if it goes too far back or too far forward.
That's the danger with it. If it does go wrong, it can only go wrong so far before it's, you can put it right, because he's going to run out of road very, very quickly if that thing goes left or right. So, yeah, anyone who actually tried to wheelie a motorbike or even a bicycle will know just how difficult it is, let alone without going up and down hills. Over 200 bends on the TT course.
First beautiful shot there from the helicopter, and you really get a feel for the island and the course when you see it from that angle.
But look at all the traffic the other way, pulling right over to him, giving him as much room as they can, so that's fantastic. They love motorbikes on the Isle of Man, though, of course they are.
So superhuman levels of concentration being displayed by Dougie Lampkin.
But yeah, the first TT race was here in 1907. The big fact that shocked me was helmets weren't made compulsory until 1914. You could race around here for 7 years with no helmet on. That would have been a rush.
So Dougie just taking a little look down there. You can hear Jake Miller, his manager, just talking to him there. They're in constant communication. You can see his left foot just coming off the back peg then as well, just resting that foot, giving it a little shake out.
But look, you know, he can't move really from that position. He's going to be in that position for the best part of 2 hours. I mean, how physical is that?
You say that, he has got to change gear. They've moved the back brake down to the back axle, but that gear lever is still up at the front of the bike. He's got to do some real toe, like twinkle toes, ballet control of that gear lever.
Yeah, it's difficult for him. He's got to take his left foot off, lift it halfway up the side of the bike to click it down again. He's going to change gear, he told me, probably just twice on the track. Once at Ramsey Hairpin, he'll have to go down the gearbox, and again right at the, actually the most difficult turn on the track for him, Governor's Bridge, which is within sight of the finish line. So
well, we're not that far away now from hotspot number 2. Hotspot number 1 was Bray Hill, right on the start line, and then this southwest corner of the track that he's been negotiating for the last, I think it's 30 minutes, is Ballough Bridge. It's a humpback bridge, and it's where some of the most dramatic footage comes from during the TT, because it's such a violent bump in the road. You see people coming through there at 120 miles an hour, and the bikes are all over the place, people rodeoing them over. But for Dougie at 20 miles an hour, it's going to be a really short climb into a really short drop, and he's going to have to watch out that the back wheel doesn't escape in there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as difficult as anything that's coming up later. I actually predict him, shouldn't probably say this, but I predict him to do it without any problems whatsoever, Ballough Bridge. Yeah, I don't think it'll be that hard for him. You know, not compared to what's coming. Ramsey Hairpin, and well, basically the last third of the track, the mountain, the whole exposed mountain up and then down for a long, long way.
I have seen your curse of the commentator on UCI mountain biking. I cannot believe that you've just said that.
I couldn't, as it slipped out, actually.
OK, so he's coming in now to Ballough Bridge, and it's a downhill section in there. Dougie just letting the bike coast into it.
Nice though, bit of clear road for him just to compose himself before things get tricky again.
Resting that left leg just on the left-hand side there. One of the padded barriers still left up from the classic race.
Looks like he's just hanging a leg off there to stretch. Remember, if he hangs off his right leg where the rear brake is, the foot-operated rear brake is, he still has that rear brake operated by his right hand. There's a lot going on there at the moment. He'll have his finger over the clutch, a finger over that brake lever as well.
You know what one of the biggest problems is, well, challenges facing him is that this is the point where you're just starting to relax into the challenge.
Yeah.
Any tiny loss of concentration here, you take this for granted for 3 or 4 seconds and it can slip away from you.
And one thing we haven't mentioned here, all the way around this island there are signs with his name on pointing him in the wrong direction. Douglas! All over the place. And it's a miracle to me that no one's taken a wrong turn yet, because it's a very real threat, that is. Did they name the capital after him? He did live here 9 years.
No, I'm pretty sure.
It's older than that?
Yeah. I think it was originally called Manning.
Was it?
Yeah, that's the Manx name, I think. So Ballough Bridge is on the horizon. Parked car before the bridge.
Great.
Jason. That's awesome.
Ideal, just what we need.
Just in case it wasn't hard enough already.
One of the outriders up front is actually Dougie's brother, Harry, who he's quite strong. I think if he needed
Diplomatically, we'll call him the enforcer, shall we?
Yeah, he's no Ban Ki-moon.
OK, 134 beats per minute. He's definitely the hot spot. Here it comes. Left-hand turn,
look at the people
up
out
and
here to
over.
watch Dougie. So look, he's up and over it.
And a round of applause.
Easy one for him, that.
No shortage of people in Ballough. Caroline, what's the atmosphere like down there?
All clear, all clear.
Guys, he swam through that, he sailed through, that was amazing. Ballough Bridge, I was getting apprehensive there, but he was brilliant. So much support from the locals. I've seen little kids with little signs for him, but the whole time, actually Dougie's been communicating with his manager Jake. Not only is the course hard enough for him to navigate, but he's having to navigate with oncoming traffic and round parked cars. There's so many visual and physical distractions, but Dougie is sailing through this. He's looking really, really strong and totally focused and committed on his goal.
Thank you, Caroline. He's looking so steady there, isn't he? Don't forget, you can join in the conversation. Use the hashtag Dougie's Wheelie. And we've got the leaderboard coming up very shortly for Dougie's game. That's dougie.redbull.tv. You can go on there. You don't need an app or anything else. You can just play, share it, and then your score will go up on our leaderboard. Dougie is looking very smooth out there.
Well, it seems as though the 6 months of training has paid off despite a fairly slow start to those preparations.
So let's pick up where we left off and see how the rest of the lead up went.
So with 3 months until the D-Day, I could wheelie 1.2 miles. We were in big trouble.
With his confidence in crisis, Dougie put in an emergency phone call to lifelong friend and technical manager Blackie Holden.
Blackie is a massive part of the project. I mean, he's basically in charge of the bike. He's pretty much done everything to it. Probably most of them were his ideas, actually, now I come to think about it. What he doesn't know about all bikes isn't worth knowing. Just got to hope that he's made a bit of progress. I need it. He's here.
I've never seen him be so negative about something, really. I can't do it. I just can't do it. That was basically it. Personally, I think it was because he didn't have his father to say, come on, you know, what you're worrying about, you can do this. It's only a wheelie. After an hour, he just seemed back in the zone again. If anybody can do it, he can do it.
With Dougie's confidence back on track, he took to the course for a make-or-break testing session.
We've got until 5 o'clock tonight to wheelie. So let's get ready and let's get going.
After Blackie's pep talk and a few practice laps, Dougie was finally able to put in some significant distance on one wheel.
I could just see some light at the end of the tunnel, and definitely 7 days before I couldn't wheel it. It was as simple as that. Our project's back on. Apparently, we're never allowed to be off. I just needed to man up. Either that or they were going to get somebody else. But it's my idea, so nobody else is having it.
But as the miles clocked up, the sheer physical scale of the challenge began to take its toll.
I knew the challenge would be physically demanding, but once again, I'd underestimated that as well. Oh, everywhere. Oh, my feet killing. My neck, back, shoulders, arms, hands, fingers. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Well, that is a lovely insight, because as easy as Dougie is making it look down in the inset here at the moment, it's actually holding that single body position is just, you're cramping up.
I think his back will be in pieces after this, yeah. He might need a good massage tonight.
Interestingly, Blackie also touched on something that we haven't talked about so far that's very personal to Dougie in the build-up to this challenge.
Well, that's right, you know, you won't mind us saying it. He lost his father earlier this year. His dad was the first world champion of motorcycle trials in 1975, and he was an integral part of Dougie's wins, of his career, of everything he did. And, you know, at the time when Dougie wobbled, for sure, if Martin had been around, he would have said, what are you doing? You need to get back on your bike. What's wrong with you? It would have been straight. You know, Dougie's a straight man. His dad was even straighter, you know what I mean? Full Yorkshire, like Dougie. So, yeah, it was a big thing, and he paid him, you know, an incredible homage, a tribute to him this year when he won the Scottish 6-day trial for the 10th times. And no doubt, Dougie don't talk about it, but if he can do this today as well, that would be another massive tribute to Martin.
OK, one man who does know Dougie very, very well is one of his old adversaries, and he's a Manx local. It's Steve Colley. I am very happy to say that we have an Isle of Man legend, Mr. Steve Colley, in the studio with us. Steve, you're one of the few people who's beaten Dougie Lampkin in competitive trials competition. You know what it takes. Can the Isle of Man TT course beat Dougie?
It's a massive, massive task he's taken on here.
There's so many things that could go wrong. I mean, you now, since you quit professional trials, you do stunt shows, which a big part of is being on the back wheel. And you said that you, just for those, I mean, you don't wheelie 37 mile in those, but you said in those you have to run 2 brakes because you will overheat one and you have to switch to another. I mean, you know, Doug has that on his bike, but that's a very real threat then.
Massive. A wheelie is all about being on the gas, on the throttle, and dragging the back brake. You're just constantly between the throttle and the back brake to balance the bike. That is all you rely on. No back brake, you go off the back, you crash. Simple as that. If you're just on the throttle, you get going too fast and the wheelie drops. How is the brake pad going to last? When I overheat the back brake in my stunt shows, which are 30 minutes long, the pad material, which is only glued to the metal, falls off. The pad material drops out. No back brake, you go straight off the back.
Can you do it?
I really don't want to say. You're putting me on the spot there. Obviously, everyone wants to know. For me personally, if you stuck me on that bike, and I've rode with Dougie for many years, and we've all won titles together, British titles and world titles. For me, I couldn't personally do it. There we go.
Dougie's made a lot of modifications to his bike, and some of those are taken from Dave Taylor's, and some of them are taken from your bike, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah, he's got his stump pegs on. He's got his big back brake, twin caliper back brake on it. And also, I believe he's taken from Dave Taylor the spinning front wheel, which is massive because I can wheelie maybe half a mile, but as soon as the front wheel stops spinning, the bike starts going left and right and becomes an absolute pig to ride. It's strange. As soon as you've got that gyroscopic effect with it spinning, you move the handlebars to the left slightly, the bike goes that way, so you gain control then. The moment that stops, the bike's like a crazy dog. You've got no idea where it's going.
That's a huge revelation that Dave Taylor had pioneered that back in the 70s.
In the 70s, that's huge. I remember as a little kid at the grandstand here looking at his bike, and it was all so far ahead of itself for the time. We'd never seen stump pegs before. They weren't on BMX in those days. The spinning front wheel. So that guy was smart. He'd done his research, and it was...
He was a visionary, really, wasn't he?
It was massive. It was massive, yeah.
You've competed against Dougie for many, many years, in World Championship trials at the very, very highest level. What strength of his is he going to need today to get through this?
The big thing is Dougie's mind, and that's what always let me down. Dougie's concentration and the way he can maintain that and not wander is the big factor here.
It's unique and fascinating insight. Thank you so much, Steve.
No problem. Thank you.
Undoubtedly the most qualified man we've spoken to about Dougie's chances of succeeding in this challenge, and he was very realistic. I wouldn't say he was massively positive.
Well, no, he wasn't. And, Steve Colley is a rider of the calibre of Dougie, not as successful, but he was an incredible rider. And, he said that he lived here. He's lived here his whole life. He does stunt shows with wheelies in 35 weekends a year, and he said, I've thought about doing this so many times. And he said, nah, because I don't think it's possible. And that for me, hearing it from Steve Colley, a genius on a motorbike, I was like, whoa. And that was the reality check right there, really, for me, because I was caught up in it like everyone else. It's Dougie, he'll do it. But so far, so good.
No shortage of people have turned out on the Isle of Man TT course to see Dougie Lampkin attempting to wheelie continuously 37 3/4 miles around the entire course.
It must be around the halfway mark now, very roughly, but somewhere is. The sun's even come out for him. He won't believe his luck. The weather here the last few days has been absolutely horrific.
Well, he's on the leeward side of the island. The wind is coming from the southwest. We're coming up onto the north and northeast corner of the island. So he's in the shelter of the mountains. The wind's not too strong down here, so he can relax a little bit and enjoy himself. But the island has saved the best till last. The mountain stage, which will involve a huge descent, which you've said, the descents and the turns are the hardest part of this.
Yeah, I think I mean, on the mountain, he's going to climb to 1,385 feet. I mean, we went up it in the car, didn't we? It took forever. I couldn't believe how long we were going up. And of course, we're down here at the finish, very close to sea level. That's a long, long way back down. And without a doubt, the sting in the tail of this wheelie attempt is the mountain, followed by Governor's Bridge, because that is the tightest, longest turn on the track. And and let's not forget, I mean, we talk about the wind on the mountain. What about the wallaby population? It's huge here. They escaped a zoo in the 70s, and they've been breeding literally like rabbits ever since. And Steve Colley said the hares and rabbits on the mountain, they're everywhere. So fingers crossed nothing like that happens.
Yeah, a rabbit or a hare might go under that wheel, but a wallaby definitely isn't.
No, it wouldn't be good.
Well, one thing's for sure, we are coming round. We're not too far off Ramsey now, which is where the impromptu roadwork started this morning. This is going to be a very, very interesting part of the course. Caroline, how's Dougie looking out there on course?
Well, Guys, I've got to say, the wind is picking up and he's having some windy, bendy turns. So there was a few really scary wobbles that Doug just had then, but he's looking strong now. But when the wind picks up, because it's not constant, there are gusts of winds, and as he's going through a turn, it really takes him off guard. But he's communicating closely with Jake, and we're trying to negotiate our speed. He's actually getting a bit of shield from the truck. We're stopping a little bit of the wind for him, but sometimes we get a bit of distance and he's off. We've had a couple of wobbles, but he's looking strong now.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, if it's windy down here, then it's going to be really, really windy up on the mountain.
Well, you know, again, he's quite shouted there behind that wall, but the minute he goes past a gate in a field or something like that and a big gust hits him from the side, those are the danger points. They really are. I think they're probably more dangerous because they're unpredictable than any turn on this track.
Okay, so we all know the old adage that an expert always makes the task look easy, and that does largely seem to stand in the case that we're looking at now, because Dougie is doing an extremely good job out there. But to give us a better idea of just how tricky it is to pull a wheelie, though, Rob joined Dougie for a bit of training. Let's see how he got on.
I've come here to North Yorkshire on a tropical day to learn how to wheelie with a man himself. You know, I've ridden these since I was a little kid, so I can wheelie a bit, but I think I might be about to get a reality check in one-wheel riding. Morning, Doug.
Morning, mate. How are you? Long time no see.
Nice to see you. So you're going to teach me how to wheelie properly?
Obviously, I know you can ride a bit, but wheelieing's a different ball game. It's about balancing your body, the clutch, and also the rear brake. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. So, first of all, we're going to start on the flat.
I'll show you what I can do.
Let's have a look.
You ready to be impressed?
Ready for it.
Don't hold your breath.
I'm not. Come on, let's have it.
Right, I've only got to impress. Best there's ever been. Should be easy enough. Fifth gear. Clutch, a little bit of a rev. I'm going to get the front wheel up. Yeah, put on the brake. Look at that, I got it. Do you want a body double, Doug? I can do this, man. I got this. Whoa.
Not bad. Not bad.
Use the brake a bit. I got it, I got it, I got it. Front wheel.
Why is he weaving around? I think Rob thinks he's doing all right.
I'll be honest, I'm very happy with how things are going so far. It's not like I'm dancing. Oh, no, it's gone tits up. No, I haven't. I've saved it. No, I haven't.
He can talk a good wheelie, and that's about it. And he does plenty of talking.
Oh, I actually got a tired arm then already. It's not that easy.
It's whinging already.
What's your head?
Not bad.
Not bad, is it, for an old fella?
How come when you've done 40 metres, though, that you're shaking your arms?
And I'm blowing. I don't think you'd believe how hard work it is to hold the bike there.
After that?
Big time, yeah.
I've got nearly 38 miles to do, especially if it's windy. If it takes the front wheel just a little bit, you're gone. There's no recovery. That's why I can't sleep at night.
I thought you looked a bit tired around the eyes. I didn't say anything.
I am.
Rather you than me.
You're actually not bad at that, are you?
Thanks, Ed. You've never paid me a compliment before. What's got into you?
I'm feeling polite because we have a guest in the studio. It's an honour to have Connor Cummins in here. Connor, how you doing?
Spot on. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're the owner of probably one of the most dubious titles in Isle of Man TT history. You got one of the most brutal crashes. Was it 2011 off the veranda?
It was 2010, yeah. So we haven't quite got over just yet. But no, it's all good. I'm only joking. Yeah, it was a while back, and yeah, it was a pretty momentous occasion, to say the least.
Well, you know better than anyone the twist in the tail of this course. Where do you think Dougie's going to struggle?
Well, I think if there's going to be anywhere, it's going to be up on top, on the mountain. The wind is pretty notorious here on the Isle of Man, and we were out on the enduro bikes yesterday up on the hills, and it was super strong. So I think that's probably you've got to focus there, I would say.
What about the riding itself? I mean, did you grow up watching Dave Taylor? Were you old enough then?
I was born in '86, so...
93, did come in '93, you might have been around.
I'm aware of it, but I was only a little nipper at that stage still, but yeah, this goes out saying Dave Taylor's, his attempt back then was phenomenal, and just the sheer weight of that bike at that time and the technology available was incredible.
Well, the fact that Dougie's still using modifications that he pioneered is a testament to how far ahead of his time he was.
It's massive, and it's good to see that it's the sort of like a bit of a legacy going on, you know. So
yeah, it's a real thing of. It's like my dad was straight away when I said about Dougie doing it. He was like, "Yeah, Dave Taylor did that in the '70s." Everyone seems to know about it. It's just a nice thing that can really capture the imagination of everyone, isn't it? Wheeling around the Isle of Man TT track.
Yeah. I mean, it's the TT track itself is pretty spectacular on its own, but you know.
What's your fastest average speed around it?
My fastest lap is 131.7 mile an hour. But it's
mad, you know. When you drive around it, not many places that you really want to fall off, is there?
There's nowhere really. You don't want to fall off anywhere, but the TT course is a massive challenge.
I'm just going to pull you up there, Connor. We saw, if you're watching the inset in the corner there, you would have seen Dougie. He had to ride on the right-hand carriageway because they'd fenced off the left-hand carriageway. These were these impromptu roadworks that we talked about this morning. He's coming into the start of Ramsey now, and no shortage of people out on the streets.
It's amazing. They love motorbikes over here. This is a motorbike island.
It's motorbike mad, and it's great to see. That's going through my hometown actually, Ramsey, and you know it's great to see so many people out supporting this big occasion. So and everyone getting behind Dougie. So yeah, there's no shortage of support.
He's coming up to the hairpin shortly.
Yeah.
How tight is it? Bearing in mind that he hasn't got the benefit of using both sides of the road. I don't think the road closure is in place there, is it? Once he gets up onto the mountain, both lanes are going to be shut, I believe. But I'm not sure if that starts before the hairpin or not.
So it is hotspot number 3, the Ramsey hairpin. You can see it here. It's just on the way out of town, and it's where the climb really starts up into the mountain stage. 180-degree turn, and it's an incredibly steep angle. The hill helps. It's pushing against the bike, but it's just the tightness of that turn.
That's one of the tightest turns, though.
Yeah, it's other than Governor's Dip, it is the other most tightest turn on the track. The thing is, it's a left-hand bend as well. It's where he's having to negotiate is probably the steepest part of the corner, because it's on the inside. So
of course,
it's going to be pretty difficult, but I'm sure Dougie will get around it.
You know this course like the back of your hand, Connor. How far's he got to go?
Well, he's got certainly 10 miles to go yet. So he's.
Isn't he doing brilliantly though?
He's doing phenomenal. The other thing with this part of the track as well, certainly from where he's gone through from Sulby to Ramsey, it's notorious for being it's most best known for being the roughest part of the track, because it's so bumpy, undulations, rises, it's so physical, so he's done well to get through there.
Well, I suppose what a lot of people wouldn't think about, because he's stood on the back pegs, there's no suspension. Right, here we go, into the shade of the trees. He's changed down, you saw the left foot come up onto the gear lever.
He's got it. The downhill won't be as easy as the up, that's for sure. He's done it, look at that.
He made that look deceptively easy, didn't he?
He certainly did, luckily.
Right, we'll throw over to Caroline now. He's changing back up.
Yeah.
Caroline, how's it going out there after Ramsey corner?
Well, guys, not only did we pass roadworks and we're having to navigate through parked cars and all that, but we've just done the hairpin. So many people gathered to watch Dougie, so no pressure, but we've started the uphill climb. He did it really well. Luckily, I don't think there's going to be much oncoming traffic, but the wind has picked up. So again, full concentration and focus. I think this is going to be Dougie's biggest test. There's been a couple of moments where we've all kind of... And a couple of gasps. He's coming close to us. We're really having to create a bit of distance between him, but this is where the real test has started. Dougie is full concentration mode. The wind is really picking up here. I'll keep updating you throughout. He's looking good for now, but this is the big test.
Okay, well, Connor said around 10 miles to the finish, and this is where the business end of the challenge begins.
In many ways, this is where it starts. This is the hardest part, the exposed part of the course, where he's really open to the wind. He has got the benefit now of using both lanes of the road, thankfully. And, you know, remember, he's going up at the moment. This is much easier than going down the other side. But he's carrying a lot more pace as well at the moment. You see him change back up to top gear, a little bit quicker up this climb.
Well, that front wheel, when it's spinning, is a bit like a tennis racket with the cover on. It's going to pick up so much windage, so without both lanes available to him, he's going to be, he needs that scope to be able to swerve. Once the wind hits him, to be able to swerve out into the other carriageway, correct and come back.
No, absolutely, for safety reasons, this had to be like this, because we saw him 2 days ago up there trying with those winds, and, you know...
Oh, front wheel really dipped then.
Big handful of throttle to get it back up on the back wheel properly.
He's had a
back on the
couple of
balance point
wobbles
where he
up here
wants
now.
it, yeah. But the other day with that wind, he was using those white lines as a moving chicane, really. He was, you know, Jake, his manager, said it was one of the most stunning displays of motorcycle riding he'd ever seen.
Dougie just looking down there.
Beautiful, though, isn't it? Sun down on him.
Now, I know you're a connoisseur of bike noises. Does it sound healthy at the moment? Because that bike's going to be... We talked about this when we saw the statistician talking about mechanicals, and that oil temperature is going to be going up. The bike's being tilted, so the oil's not sitting level in there. There's a lot of odd wear going on the bike, effectively.
Sounds... Just trying to hear what Dougie's saying. That he's going to get... If the wind gets bad, he'll get as close as he can to that truck in front of him, which will shout at him.
Well, you can see the water is not...
Street.
Couldn't hear him then. The water is smooth behind him, but that's, as we said, because it's the leeward side of the island. There is no shortage of wind. It's just blowing over the mountains. It's strong now. It's about to get even stronger. Oh, that's the first time we've seen him grimace. 2 miles an hour faster.
Yeah. So you can see all of a sudden we've come out of the bottom of the mountain, we're up here, and things have changed, and there's a real sense of tension around Dougie now.
I don't know about Dougie's heart rate, but mine is certainly lifting now.
He's under pressure up here.
78 beats per minute. Still very calm by comparison. 33% of fuel left. He's going to drain an awful lot of that, though, using higher revs coming up this hill. 12 miles to go. You can see there on the loop, he's come round that northeastern tip. That was Ramsey and the hairpin. And he's winding his way. This is a long climb.
Still a third of this lap to go, and it's the toughest third. He's tucked in there. You see the van up the outside now? That is to shield him from the wind. So they're trying to give him every chance they can up here. He's got a van in front of him, one to the side of him, really sheltering him from that crosswind.
Caroline, you are very close to Dougie now.
So guys, the wind is massively picking up here. This is a huge test for Dougie. He's spoken to Jake, his manager, who he's been speaking to the whole time. We've got a van here and us trying to shield him from this wind because it's so strong, and we've just seen him go backwards and forwards across both lanes. Luckily, there's no oncoming traffic. There's cycles up ahead to let us know, but it seems that the roads are clear. But he took a real wobble. He was shouting at Jake to get the vans in the other lane. He's asking which direction the wind's coming in. He's really strong. I can feel it, and I'm just standing here, and he's on one wheel going round bends. Gooseneck was really hard for us to get round. But with Jake's here, and he's being his absolute rock, everyone is cheering him on. But this is really the hard point now. If he can do this, it's going to be incredible.
Well, we've seen some fantastic angles there that show you just how far he's climbed. Ramsey Hairpin was coming off sea level. Already he's climbed up. You said it's more than 1,300 feet.
It is, and you know, all of a sudden the intensity has gone up several notches. Dougie he's working harder. You can look at the bike, left and right. He's battling. Dougie is battling right now. I promise you that. Look at it. He's looking a lot less comfortable. The way that he's steering, you can see him turning that front wheel left and right. That's him just trying to find his balance. The wind's buffeting him from the left and the right there.
And it is a cruel twist that this biggest challenge comes when he's at his most physically vulnerable.
Yeah, it's going to be this is tiring for him as well.
It looks like the Lampkin poker face is back in place though at the moment. Oh, you know, look at him, look at him.
And with that van, with that truck in front of him, he really hasn't got anywhere to go. Less room for error. Jake giving him the thumbs up there. Perhaps they've got everything as they want it now and they can calm down, but it was getting a little bit heated back there.
It looks like the climb has eased a little bit. They're on a flatter section here.
But that won't help him.
No.
Going uphill's easier for him at the moment, definitely.
Well, it all combines for the perfect storm because our last, penultimate hotspot, Kate's Cottage, is the most exposed aspect of hillside. So he's got the most wind and he's going downhill. Yeah. They're going to combine to make it incredibly difficult.
Yeah, this is not as hard as going down the other side.
So he's going to be at his most tired and at his most vulnerable towards the end of this lap.
Windy corners coming up as well.
The pressure is just ratcheting up with every mile he gets under his belt.
But this is a man who won't start parting in his helmet too prematurely. He knows that he's got to get across that finish line. You know, that's the good thing about Dougie. He's been in this position close to winning World Championships so many times, and it's his mental fortitude that has pulled him through that, and it might be just that today that will get him through this, because it's calmed down a bit now. The bank up on his left there, shouting him a bit more.
Well, they look like they've acclimatised to this a little bit. It was the shock of coming out of that lowland stage up onto the mountain.
Getting the vans set up around him without a doubt.
Yeah, together they've now got this how they want it, but...
Look at the small area that he's operating in now. So, you know, he's got to be precise now. More than ever now, he can't afford a mistake because he has not got room to sort it out. Well, the front wheel will go down.
He just made it look so easy in those first 20 miles. He made it look deceptively easy. And you can see how bleak and open the landscape is ahead of them. The wind is going to come rushing over that saddle in front of them. And that is going to create all sorts of problems. The bike is really starting to move around, isn't it? I say that and it steadies right down. He looks in perfect control
he's
again
working.
now.
You can see it on his face there. He's anxious at the moment, Dougie. This is not easy for him.
So 360 metres. They're almost at the top of their climb. Got about another 40, 50 metres to go.
Just tickling that bike along. 6th gear, you can hear it. Just
go on, give me an impression of the noise.
I was about to give it just a brap, just, you know, feather in the clutch.
What would it sound like if it was 2-stroke?
That is a 2-stroke, Ed. Oh, good. One back from me. Taking it all day.
Shame, bro. Okay.
Yeah. Sit back and enjoy these pictures. Dougie, high on the mountain, ticking down the miles slowly, but surely so far. Back a little bit further now behind the truck.
I think in Dougie's mind, he's going to be over the moon that he's got round this far. Because there was a real danger there that he could drop it after 5, 10, 15 miles. And he would be, as we said, risking his legacy.
But he won't be happy if he drops it now. I'll tell you that now. He's come here to do one thing today, and that is to wheelie the Isle of Man course. And nothing else will do.
But there are so many good reasons why he would drop it here.
But it won't matter. It will be absolutely devastating. This is a man who does not fail, honestly. You know, look at his face. Look at the determination there.
I love this angle. It gives you a real perspective on just how fast Dougie's going.
Yeah, they're on pace up here now.
You can see too high for the trees to grow. There's nothing except tussock grass up here, because the wind howls over these mountains.
This is great. I'm sweating sitting here in the studio. This is intense. This is so intense.
So, very, very nice driving from the rolling road block, protecting Dougie very effectively. If you thought that this was one of the more bizarre things to happen on the Isle of Man, you'd be wrong. They do actually hold the World Tin Bath Sailing Championships.
Really?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I haven't seen any wallabies yet. That's a minor problem out of the way.
You're disappointed by that?
I am actually, because I do love a marsupial. Are they marsupials?
Yes.
That's on you now.
Two-stroke and a marsupial.
This is one of the most bizarre laps done on a motorcycle. Another actually belongs to James May, who did a lap on a bike motorcycle made out of Meccano.
Did he?
Yeah. Top Gear's James May did. I bet that was a rough ride.
I've got to say, for me so far,
He was on hexagons apparently.
The highlight has been meeting Connor Cummins.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. You wouldn't believe how tall he was, because sat next to you, you're how tall? 6'5"?
Yeah.
And he still looked tall. He was taller than you.
Yeah, he's a big lad actually. I was amazed at how quick he can go on a road bike, because it doesn't usually suit a tall rider. But yeah. And I must say congratulations to Connor Cummins as well. He asked his girlfriend to marry him this week and she said yes.
Really?
Yeah, she likes to say yes.
Fair bit of discussion going on there. You could just see Dougie talking to Jake. Heart rate's back down now. Dougie dealing with this like an absolute pro. 9 miles to go. We are under the 10-mile mark. 417 metres. So
I believe that's Veranda where he's going now. Past Veranda. That's where Connor Cummins crashed the other day. So he's passed, I think, the highest point on his way back down now.
No. He's still got a little bit of a climb.
A little bit back to
they
the
come
very
round.
top.
The electric railway crosses the road just up ahead of us. In about half a mile's time. Comes up from the east end of Douglas, skirts around the coast and then crosses over the road here up towards Snaefell, the highest peak.
That's right, he's within a mile now, the highest point of this mountain. 1,385 feet, 422 metres above sea level he'll be in a minute.
Yeah, so he's only climbing another 5 metres.
Before it gets harder, the way back down. The physics are all wrong to wheelie a motorcycle downhill. He'll be trying to get out from underneath him. He won't be able to ride it, although it is Doug's and his skills are immense, but I doubt whether he'll be able to get that close behind that lead truck on the way back down. Because obviously on a downhill, if the bike starts to drop, he's got to give it even more power to get it right back up on the back wheel.
Well, we heard from Steve Colley earlier, you're feathering the back brake and the throttle at the same time, so you're effectively working the engine against the brake, and that starts to melt the brake very quickly.
Yeah, that's another thing on the downhill as well. Hope Technology actually supplied the brakes for the bike. British engineering firm that they've worked so closely with to develop this machine as it is.
This is mesmerising, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's breathtaking. Look at him. And, he's getting there. Against all odds, he is getting there. Oh, now when it wobbles like that, it can't go much further than that before he's in real trouble. And now we're going down and he is fighting it. More so again.
If this challenge was Armageddon, the movie, this would be the point when all the drill bits have blown up and they think they're all going to die.
Right.
This is the hardest bit.
I'm not that familiar with Armageddon. I watch more highbrow films, ones that educate me, I like.
Okay. Well, here it is. That is the highest point. We've crossed over the electric railway tracks. You can see a cluster of spectators there.
Look how loose that bike is now. It's wobbling around more.
It's all over the road, isn't it? And we're coming up very, very quickly on the aptly named Windy Corner. This is hotspot number 4 of 6. And it's slowed right down here. Dougie trying to tuck in right beside the van on his right.
Yeah, it'll go slow on the way down, that's for sure.
And the monotonous purr of that bike.
Look at Jake, his manager's just feeding him instructions. He's almost touching the bars on that van on the right. He's tucked so tightly in there. This is absolutely incredible. Look at him. It's bonkers. He's been on the back wheel how long now? Well over the hour mark.
Well, he's got 9 miles to go, so 28 miles.
28 miles.
on the back wheel. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And so he's coming up a mile, just over a mile and a half away now from Windy Corner. It's not called Windy Corner for anything else than the fact that it's blowing a gale there. So it'll be a proper test for him.
It is a saddle between two hills, which means that the wind is getting funneled up between those two peaks, accelerated from the gully. It is very, very exposed. Dougie knows it's coming. He rode round this the other day, and it was the only spot where he pulled up the front wheel. He wanted to get a taste of just how aggressive this was going to be.
You know, people coming out to watch this, what a challenge it is. Something we can all relate to, something steeped in mystique, really, about Dave Taylor and all that. You know, it's just a beautiful thing to do. And Dougie is looking good so far to be the first man to ever wheelie the TT course in its entirety.
I think Dougie said it himself best when we were looking at the training that he did. He said, it's a wheelie. As soon as you can ride a bike, it's the first thing you want to do. It's such a beautiful image of control.
It used to impress the girls at the bus stop when I was a younger lad. They loved it. They used to love a wheelie. Honestly.
It took me 40 years to learn when I can only just do about 3 cranks on one now. I'm useless at it. So Jake talking constantly to Dougie there, listening to everyone on the radio. He knows those outriders are up ahead. They'll already be there, looking at just how windy it is, how gusty it is. We are coming up very quickly on Windy Corner. How's Dougie getting on? How's the rolling roadblock there, Caroline?
Well, guys, we are heading into Windy Corner, like you just said, Ed, and it's living up to its name. I think the reality of this challenge has hit home with Dougie. I've only seen him get nervous a couple of times, but it's been here on this mountain. He's communicating all the time with Jake. He's constantly worried about the direction of the wind. We've got the van on one side, we're on the other. I've seen him come across the 2 lanes a few times, and I've seen his wheel really struggle to stay up. The wind is so strong, but we're all behind him and we're cheering him home. I think if he can get round this bend, he's almost there. So there's only a few more to go, but anything can happen at this point because it really is strong winds. Back to you guys in the studio. I'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, we can see it there. That was Windy Corner, and the bike was all over the place.
Yeah, wasn't it just? It really, really was. He's working hard now, Dougie.
And the vans are tucked up even tighter.
Look at his face. That's not the face you see very often from Doug. Usually he looks super composed.
And you can start to see his shoulders. They look like he's just pulling them closer and closer to his ears. You can see the fatigue. He looks relaxed. Those arms were nice and stretched out. And his arms are starting to bend, like he's pulling them in closer and closer. The tension's starting to take its toll. Look at it. 6 miles to go now. He's negotiated Windy Corner, but the hotspots come thick and fast. We've got Kate's Cottage coming up, and then it's the mother of all technical spots. Yeah. It's Governor's Bridge down at the bottom of the mountain.
Just when he wants to let his guard down, he won't be able to. No, Dougie said, gritting his teeth there, grimacing.
Oh, he's breathing heavily.
Look how close he is to the back of that van. I think he's hurting, you know, physically.
Well, you can see it. Look at the arm bend. He's not sat back on the arms. He's having to pull it in. Oh. Look at that onboard camera.
Squeezing that rear brake where the front brake would normally be with his right hand. Look at him. Look how hard he's working on it.
So he's working the clutch on the right-hand side of your picture, the rear brake on the left.
Yeah, his left. Sorry, his right, excuse me, is the rear brake. Yeah.
That's why I said the picture wrong.
Oh, did you? Sorry, I missed that. I'm concentrating that hard on what he's doing. I'm not even listening to what you say anymore.
I didn't know that you ever did.
Well, no. At least I got an excuse today.
looking steady again. There's just that little bank and the van working together to give him enough shelter. They come down. We can't quite see Kate's cottage. It sits on the right-hand side of the road on a left-hand bend.
He is tucked right in there. He is tucked so close into the back of that truck. 5 miles to go now. 5 miles. The most difficult, the hardest 5 miles of this challenge left, though. There's no doubt about that. It's downhill. It's Governor's Bridge coming. And Dougie, you know, he's going to be feeling it now. He's going to be feeling the pain of what he's been doing.
So this is the next hotspot coming up. Number 5, Kate's Cottage. So called after a commentator mispronounced Tate's Cottage. That was the name of the family who lived here. As we said, risk of physical exhaustion. He's on the middle of a really long downhill section and he's still got the wind to deal with. Look at Jake. Jake's actually giving him the pep talk here. Dougie's obviously in excruciating pain. You can see him just leaning back on the bike there. Trying to get a little bit of rest. He'll be burning that back brake up.
He's got to watch to overheat it, but you saw there, the front wheel, much less steady, that bike now on this descent. The front rearing up. There's Kate's Cottage on the right, one of the most iconic parts of the TT course.
And from here, he can actually see Douglas. He knows on the right-hand side there just how far he's got to go. So the end, quite literally, is in sight. But as we said, this is the most difficult section. Look how fast the bike's going. He's coming right up to Caroline. It's so close to you. Whoa.
Well, guys, we are going downhill, which is the hardest part for Dougie, and we've just passed Kate's Cottage. He is really struggling. This now physically is so demanding. I've been here the whole time. I can feel the wind. It's so strong. We've been communicating with Jake. I mean, the vans are coming, trying to shield, and now it's just downhill for a really long time. So I can imagine that he's feeling battered, beaten, and probably a bit bruised at this point. We're all behind him and we're hoping that he can get through this. The severity of the challenge is becoming very real, and I do not want to be, or I would not like to be, in Dougie's shoes right now.
Oh, big wobble there. The left foot came off. He had to really correct. Get them out of here, we heard him say.
Listen to it.
So Cragney Bar, one of the most famous spectator spots on this descent, and Dougie is really feeling the toll at the moment.
Whether he likes it or not, if he does this, I'm giving him a back massage afterwards. He deserves one. He will need it as well, because he's in pain right now.
He's dropped 110 metres down from the highest point, but you can see there's cars parked on the other carriageway.
Oh my word, look. It just doesn't look quite as comfortable, quite as settled as he did earlier. Of course he doesn't. He's been on the back wheel for over 30 miles, 34 miles now. There's only 3 miles left to go.
The pressure is ratcheting up here. This is phenomenal. Dougie Lampkin is in the battle of his career, and it's not against another rider. It's not against a small trials obstacle. It's against the Isle of Man TT course.
10 times this man has won the Scottish 6-day trial.
Oh, another little wobble off the back there. He is really struggling. Dougie Lampkin has made most of the biggest tests in his career look very, very easy, but this one is biting now.
He's going to come out of this and say he does it, will be up there with anything he's ever achieved. I guarantee you that.
Well, one of the big things that you've got to say here is that Dougie Lampkin is one of a kind. He's dominated trials for so long. You've got to wonder if there's anyone else who could do this.
Steve Colley said not. And that's, you know, Steve Colley, winner of 2 World Championship trial rounds. And you have to say, Steve Colley, so flamboyant, so gifted on a bike that, you know, he can do things on a bike that perhaps even Dougie can't.
And look at the resources. Look at the resources Dougie's got at his disposal and what he's had to do, the time he's had to dedicate, the bike that he's had to build to make this a reality.
Yeah.
So 140 beats a minute. So we saw that at 80 on the climb, where he was able to use gravity, that climb up the hill, to work with the bike. It made the ascent really easy. Yeah. Now it's all on Dougie. His body working so hard, you can't sustain 141 beats per minute for another 15, 20 minutes after what's come before this.
10% of fuel left. Should be enough, hopefully, to see him to the line if he can keep it on that back wheel. But yeah, you know, talking to Collie, he just didn't. He said, you know, he lives here. Why haven't you done it? It can't be done. That is what he said to us. If you know anything about the world of trials, you'll know exactly what I mean when I say it's Steve Collie. He was amazing motorbike rider, and still is.
Well, we talked about the bike potentially seizing up. At the moment, it's Dougie's body that is seizing. It'll be cold. He's been sat up on the top of that mountain, exposed to the wind. He's got fatigue all through his back. The bottoms of his legs have just been perched on those pegs, and his arms are controlling the handlebars. It'll be so tight, and the reaction times are starting to get longer and longer. His muscles can't respond the way they did in those first 10 miles.
And as you'll see, you know, we're not hyping it up. The most difficult turn on this course is yet to come. When he's at his lowest ebb, and it's right before the finish. It's right before the finish. And he said, I said to him, you know, where's the toughest bit? And he said, yeah, the last turn, Governor's Bridge. Let's go to Caroline.
Guys, we're coming to the end, but we're nowhere near finished. And Dougie is really depending here on Jake. Jake's having to gear him up. I think he's mentally really very tired. Jake is telling him to breathe, he's telling him to relax, he's telling him to keep going, that he's got this. And it's really hard. I mean, he's having to batter through physical elements, but now mentally I think he's exhausted. We've got another hot spot to get through, so it can all go wrong at this point, and I think the reality is really hitting home in this truck. We're all very tense. Everyone's relying on Dougie, and we're all watching him with bated breath. I hope it's a lot more relaxed in the studio, guys.
It's the absolute opposite, Caroline. We're on the edge of our seats here.
I've got no fingers left.
The one thing to celebrate is that he's got a little bit of shelter from the wind again. You can see the trees building up against the road. So you know that he's got a little bit of respite from the wind, and the mountain stage is over.
So he's going to come up to Governor's Bridge now. Here it is, and this is, it's a tight turn. It's actually more difficult than Ramsey Hairpin because it's more of a turn. It goes right round on itself, but it's a longer turn and it's downhill.
But Dougie said from the beginning that a left turn, uphill left turn is the easiest, downhill right turn is the hardest. And that's what we said all along. This is saving the best till last. Dougie is going to find this so hard. He's got a downhill right turn.
This isn't it, actually, but this is a difficult turn. This is a difficult turn. He's through there safely.
But he's within 2 miles. He's 1.7 miles from the finish. It's within touching distance. Just this.
This is unbelievable.
Awful final test to try and negotiate.
I just want this done. I just want this done. I can't bear to watch. Look at it. He's almost wheelied the entire TT course.
Dougie Lampkin making good on Dave Taylor's vision. The stunt rider who so nearly made this a reality in the 3 attempts he had at it. But Dougie Lampkin has worked tirelessly in 2016.
This might be good for Doug now. The truck's pulled away a little bit. He's clearly more comfortable. He's down off the mountain. He's less exposed. And maybe just a little time now just for him to... He'll be thinking about Governor's Bridge.
But the body language...
He just told that bike to get back. He doesn't want anyone up the side of him. He needs space now. He needs to concentrate here, Dougie. And that's what he's doing.
Crossing right over. So he's coming down.
Closed road for him, he'll like that. Use both sides of it again. So he's within touching distance at the end of this thing, but you know, here it is.
Now on the left hand side you can see the way they've built that turn.
He's got to go right around that roundabout.
So he changed down. The left foot had to come up and get onto the gear lever there. One of the most difficult manoeuvres for him.
This is it. This is the last part of it. This is the last part of his challenge.
Downhill right-hand bend. Now he's got a left-hand bend into this old section of the course.
Unfaltering. Look, solid as a rock through there. Come on, Dougie. Come on, Dougie. You're almost at the end now.
150 beats per minute. 152, it's rocketing up. So the stress and the physical exertion taking their toll on him. 4% of fuel left.
Running on fumes, but it doesn't matter. There's enough in the tank for him. That should have been the last hurdle out of the way, but you know this man won't let success creep into his mind until he crosses that line. He will not let his guard down. Dougie Lampkin is about to ride himself, wheelie himself into the history books here. I'm pretty sure now.
The cameras are out with the spectators. They're cheering him on.
Come on, Dougie.
And he's within sight now, I think. He can see some of the poles, and then the flags of the grandstand will hove into view.
I'm just sat here with a great big smile on my face. He's so close to doing it. He's so close. It's just past those trees there on the left coming up.
This is going to mean so much to him.
He hasn't changed back up the gearbox, you know. I wonder why. Probably didn't want to risk it.
Well, it destabilises the bike. Reaching forward that much.
He's in a lower gear. He's going
and you can see the grandstand now on the left-hand side. The finish line approaching.
Come on, Dougie.
Less than 100 metres to go.
Don't drop it now, Dougie. Whatever you do. Come on, Dougs. Let's get this thing over the line. Yes! He's done it! It's unbelievable! The Isle of Man TT course has been done on one wheel. And look what it means to him. Yes, Dougie!
Dougie Lampkin is not a man who gives his emotions away easily. He is...
He's done it, he's done it.
A Yorkshire man through and through, and you can see just how exhausted he is. The pain in his back and his legs and his arms taking its toll. The outrider's waiting for him as he makes his way round into the pits, still shaking his fist.
This is as big an achievement as anything this man has done in his career. Oh my God, he's actually done it. He's actually done it.
No one thought he could do it. Taking the cable off the bike now, that kill switch that would let the inertia out of that front wheel gyroscope. And look at him, he's solid, he can barely move. Jake Miller, his manager, coming in for the hug as Dougie tries to shake off 37 3/4 miles.
Oh, he's hurting.
Look at that.
He is hurting. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It don't matter. He's done it. He's done it.
In an island steeped in motorcycle history, Dougie Lampkin. Oh, he has delivered. Caroline, please give us a word with Dougie.
Guys, he has done it, and I'm with the main man himself. Dougie, how are you feeling?
Oh, my legs have gone. It was so windy on the mountain. I was gripping everything. I could feel the brakes warming up. I was just everywhere. Oh, I couldn't wait for it to be over.
My heart was in my mouth. Jake, I don't know what he was saying, but he was screaming at one point, he was crying at one point, and I was just fixated on you. I was going through a roller coaster of emotions. What were you going through?
From the beginning, it was it was incredible. I mean, I picked up at the start, just knocked into top gear where I wanted to be, sort of hesitated a little bit, nearly went down before the start line, and then it took a while to sort of settle down a little bit, really. I knew I was going too fast. I knew I was on the brakes too much, but I still couldn't sort of stop myself. And then I had two massive moments at Gooseneck within about 50 metres. And then from then I just thought, we're going to have a nightmare now because it's just so windy. I know it always is, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah, the wind was incredible. I was finding it hard to stand up, but you've done it. You've made history.
Yeah, feels fantastic. It was just that last part there. It was nice and steady coming down the last part. I didn't even go back into top gear after Governor's Bridge. I just thought, there's no way I'm missing a gear at this moment. Just take your time. And yeah, last 15 seconds was absolutely lovely. The rest of it was a challenge. In fact, it was ridiculous, but it feels fantastic. I ain't got no words, really. I don't know what to say.
It was very emotional for Jake and for everyone who was there.
Blackie there, the first man to give Dougie a hug. He's lived through this challenge with him, as have the rest of Dougie's family. His wife, his kids.
And it was as hard as it looked. You know, it was as hard as it looked. I mean, he had to have that van up the side of him up the mountain, or I don't think it would have been possible today. It was, and that's paramount to his skills, that he could fit in that small gap and ride all that way.
Well, Dougie's eldest is 11 years old and he's just got a mobile phone, and he WhatsApped him today, didn't he?
Yeah.
To let him know. He said, I know you can do it, Dad.
Alfie. Yeah, well, he said, I know you can do it, Dad. You've been practising enough.
P.S. I know you can do it.
Well, what have we just seen? It was just
history in the making. That's exactly what we've seen.
Well, Dougie Lampkin is a legend in the trials bike community, and it would seem that the sport is in his blood. He's the latest in a long line of Lampkins, a family that has dominated the trial scene since the 1960s.
Well, he said that this challenge is his biggest to date, but it would seem that if anyone can do it, it was always going to be Dougie.
Dougie Lampkin is a modern-day trials legend, but his family's success in motorcycling started over 60 years ago.
All started off back in the 60s with my Uncle Arthur, who was Scrambles rider.
It's just in us, and that's it. You just can't get rid of it. Motorbikes, anything on wheels, and we've got to have something to play with, some toy.
Inspiring his younger brothers, Alan and Martin, it wasn't long before all three brothers had etched the name Lampkin into the history of the sport forever.
All three of them really set the standard. They were, you know, as good as it gets, really, sport-wise.
I don't know what the secret is. It's something that's there and you can't explain it. It's just a total love of motorcycles.
As their reign came to an end in the 80s, the torch quickly passed to cousin James and Dougie, who, by the age of 18, were once again top of the sport.
And Lampkin being barked at by both his father, Martin Lampkin, and his cousin James. This is a family affair.
The Lampkin family unity is clear as much on the course as off it. Dougie's father, Martin, was a key part of Dougie's trials team.
Just keeping you on the right track with your training, you know, making sure you were comfortable with the bike and not trying to do too many changes. I think it was just a general overview that my dad had that just seemed to know how to make it work, really. That's the most important thing, family.
Very wise words there from Dougie Lampkin. You've lived through Dougie's career, you've seen it. Put it in perspective in comparison to all of his other achievements. What is this going to mean?
I think it's right up there. I mean, you know, Dave Taylor is a household name from his attempt in the 70s. It's something, like we said, that captures anyone's imagination. It's been something of myth, legend, whatever you want to say until now, but today it's been done. No argument. We saw it start to finish, and it lived up to all the expectations I did. It was so I mean, yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved that. It was amazing.
Well, it was a breathtaking spectacle. Let's have a look at some of the highlights now. I think we're going to start by taking a look at Gooseneck. It was the area that Dougie talked about, that spot where he got the real swerve on the way into it, where effectively he got his wake-up call that he was in this challenge and the island meant business. It wasn't going to give up that kind of record easily.
No, we heard him say as well that he was going too fast at the start. You know, he had to settle himself down. We could kind of see that, actually. But we weren't wrong about the intensity on the mountain and just how close it was to not happening. I mean, it really was. And you like to have the skills to ride with the van up there, one right in front of you. The front wheel was almost on the camera van in front as he was trying to shout from the wind. So much going on for him. Jake screaming at him. I mean, these guys don't mess about. They've been doing this a long, long time.
One of the big things, though, we always knew that it was going to be the unpredictability of the challenge that threw up the real challenges, and it was the roadworks that popped up this morning just outside Ramsey that created one of the biggest issues. So you can see the sign.
He did know it was coming.
And technically he's adhering to the speed limit here as well, 20 miles an hour. But they closed the left-hand lane, so the outriders, the boys up in front, have done their job here. They've managed to clear everyone in each direction. Dougie can go around that. You've got that lane closed off.
Look how narrow it is.
There is no room for error there. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, all of the crew in here. Come on, give it up to Dougie.
Did that hurt as much as it did?
What kind of state are you in? What's happening?
Just everything. Really. Left side just absolutely solid. Just as soon as we came out of gooseneck, I just thought, oh no.
There were a couple of times coming up to Cronky Body where I saw you take your left leg off quite early and start shaking it.
Yeah. I was just, like I said before, I definitely set off a little bit too fast. I knew I was dragging the brakes too much. You know, doing everything wrong, but I was passing sort of 6-7 mile marker, and I was still doing everything wrong. I just couldn't
settle.
I just couldn't settle down. Yeah.
Okay, we talked about this at the start, how relaxed you were. How much of it, how confident were you? When you strip away everything else, obviously in your own mind you have to believe you can do it at the start, but were you genuinely confident? Did you set off believing it was possible?
I think normally throughout everything I've always done, it's always been down to me, and it was up to me to make it happen. I think one of the biggest challenges here about this is, you know, the wind, everything going on around, even cars coming the other way, a couple of cars nearly pulled out on us. It was all those things that just keep it all tense, and yeah, there was no certainty at all anywhere throughout that, I can assure you.
How intense was it up the mountain? We saw you like wrestling in that bike between two vans, Jake in your face, you shouting back. I mean, you weren't holding anything back up there. It looked like it was on the edge. It just seemed to go on forever.
I felt that once we come out of gooseneck, if I could sort of hug the left-hand side, I've heard the road racers talking about that, you know, when I'm quizzing them about the wind going up onto the mountain and say, you know, hug the left-hand side, it's definitely calmer. Well, I started hugging the left-hand side and nearly went into the drainage ditch, so I thought, well, I'll try something else, and then panicked a little bit and tried to drop away from the vehicle, get back up to the vehicle, and I just had a couple of massive moments at gooseneck as well.
How close was it to actually, did you really come close to touching that wheel on the ground at a couple of points?
Probably about maybe up to 10 times, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought I'd lost it twice.
Yeah.
You really thought you'd
lost
it?
When you lost your balance and your right leg comes off, you're in massive trouble, because you can't. I couldn't rely on the sort of hand rear brake for anything at that sort of speed. That's just to sort of help me sort of drag it a little bit down the hills. So
we've been absolutely overwhelmed here. There's been huge support on social media. Everyone's been wishing you well, and it's gone absolutely nuts now that you've done it. So on top of that, it kind of ties in, this wasn't a solo attempt, was it? You had huge support from Jake on the truck, from the boys out in front, and from the van drivers.
Yeah, it's been massive. I mean, it's basically taken up, you know, our lives for the last 7 months is this. I mean, you've met before, you know, Blackie and Francesc, especially Blackie, the sort of time and effort that he's put into my bike and things like that, sort of turned it all around to sort of start getting mileage under our belt, really. But yeah, as you can imagine, you know, the management, all my outriders, I've been a bit of a pain for the last few months, that is for sure, but it was all well worth it now.
It feels like you're quite emotional now.
I am a little bit, yeah. I'm just a bit too tired to be. I'm just sort of slumped a little bit.
Slowly going
Keep putting my left leg out. Sorry, Caroline, my left leg keeps flying out.
Well, while you've been busy on the bike, everyone at home has actually been busy on their phones and tablets. We've got Dougie's game. So we've got the leaderboard now, the final leaderboard. Let's see what the biggest distance is. Arno Kottmann, congratulations. The Belgian has done 26.794 miles. Close behind
You're the only one
Dustin
to do a full lap
Land.
today, though, Doug.
Josh Broderick, yeah. He's still a couple of miles short. Almost 10, more than 10 miles short of your achievement. But the game will still be there. You can play it as much as you like. But Arno, congratulations. You haven't quite equalled this man, though.
Doug, all the early starts, all the sleepless nights, all the stress coming into this, is it worth it?
Absolutely, always is. That's why I keep challenging myself. But yeah, this has sort of been as big as, you know, final round of World Championship to gain a title, things like that. And
would you compare it with those achievements?
Absolutely, yeah. The sort of pressure I put myself under to achieve things. I don't do second best, don't do failure and things like that. But I'm not doing anything like that again.
Yeah, famous last words.
I'm not putting myself under that pressure again.
Something could come up.
No, well, I hope not.
Okay.
Any ideas? You know, just tweet them in. Anything you want to see Dougie do next?
Just give me a week or two.
It has been an unforgettable day of action here on the Isle of Man, and it's steeped in motorcycle folklore, and the prospect of leaving your mark here is an intimidating one, even for someone of Dougie's stature. But today he has written his very own unique chapter in the Isle of Man's motorcycle history book. Congratulations, Dougie.
Thank you.
You've witnessed history in the making. We're really proud of you, Doug. It was it was something to watch, man. We didn't even want to be talking about it. We just wanted to sit back and enjoy it. But you held it together. You proved that a human being can actually wheelie the entire length of the infamous TT course.
What an amazing achievement. There's nothing left now for us to do, though, other than to bid you good night and leave you with some of the breathtaking highlights from earlier on today.
Thanks for watching, everybody. That's it. Now, man. Bye-bye.